Good afternoon. For the past years, I want to meet online. You see your comment in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
My clients, how did I say?
What the hell? Did it go away again?
There, sound check. There, sound check. Sound check. Hello, sound check. Merritt, can you hear us? Merritt, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, but you're a little broken up.
That may change once there's no background. Chris, good to see you. Nice to meet you, sir.
Hi, Meredith. My name is Kyle Benson. I wanted to meet you. I heard you weren't able to make it tonight. I can't. I apologize. Meredith.
Yeah, there I am. Can you hear me now? Yes, I came down with a cold last night, so I'm not spreading it around.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Thank you for attending online.
You're welcome. I can barely hear you though.
Let's see. Let's try this. I think this got the speaker on it as well. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Way better. Yeah.
Very nice.
A lot of background noise.
And I apologize. There's quite a few people here, but I just wanted to say nice to meet you. I look forward to speaking with you further.
Yes, me too.
Awesome.
Oh, no, you're our chief.
How about you?
Wow, Mary.
Come around here.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Thank you.
Right, sure. Somebody else.
Very nice.
Everybody's been talking.
Yes, I've been looking forward to meet you for a little while. Yes, I've heard a lot of great things.
These are the other things you guys look forward to all.
Doesn't try.
Sounds like it does. So thank you.
I'll take it, but I'll let.
Awesome. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Are they here right now? Doing our good expense. You know. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do that next video on general work.
Please be seated.
February 27th.
Please be seated. I'm calling the meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. I'm Deb Curley, president of the Golden Gate Fire Protection District, and I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. For the roll call, start at this end with Chris Creech,
Present.
Kyle Benson,
Present.
Dave Primer,
Here.
Steve Green,
Here.
Nippy Overwoody. Additions and deletions to the agenda. I have a couple. We had listed the executive session at the top of the agenda, but I want to move it. I want to move it down to from number 2 to, let me see, under, let's get through the whole thing. Let's put it at under new business 6.5. Is that okay, Nippy? Okay, the executive session will move down, and the finalization of the job description comes after that, so that would be 6.6. Any,
Sorry. I have some clarifications on the agenda.
okay,
On number 2.2, approval of September 1st meetings. 2 of the present board members were not board members on that September 1st meeting. Are we participants? Are we voting? Or are we observing 2.2?
4.2 is what it is.
I'm sorry, I don't have the right numbers then.
Okay,
The
September 1st,
approval of September 1st meeting.
okay.
So 2 board members were not board members at the time.
What do you think?
I don't know. Well, they weren't there.
Okay,
I don't know for sure. It's a unique situation.
do you want them to have a voice in approval or not, or
It's
the,
hard to prove something that you're not a witness to as a board
There's a
member.
recording that they have access to.
So that's true.
so
A motion that we be allowed to participate in the 2.2 recording minute discussion.
Okay, and then, but not approval or denial.
A participant and approval or
Okay.
denial.
Oh, is the board okay with that? Dave, you weren't there either.
I wasn't there, no. I had the same question that he brought up first.
Were you at the meeting, Dave, or you just weren't a board member?
I wasn't at that meeting.
You have the access to the recording. You have access to the recording, right?
No,
Oh, I didn't send it to you.
my link has been out of order for 2 weeks now.
Okay, so
All
then
right.
Dave and I will observe and not participate in
Okay.
discussion or voting. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
And then just as a clarification, there is, I don't know the number, but there is a censorship of NIFI listed that is related to that agenda item. Again, I don't have the number.
It's 6.2.
So this, is that, should that conversation occur before or after that presentation of the minutes?
I would think after. That's your item, Steve.
So it'll occur after?
So we have the, under section 4, there's approval of minutes for 19 January and 1 September. And then in 6, we talk about the proposal for addressing agenda the minutes. That's from you, Mr. Creech. And then there's censorship of myself and Ms. Curley on 6.2 and 6.3 from Mr. Green.
Well, it might have said 4.2, 4.3, and it's printed off today. So you must have changed it. Sorry.
I realize that I printed an older copy, but the website is up to date.
Yeah, the website is where
Well, that was what you sent me. So
we did. We sent it out.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So for clarification, will the censorship occur after that discussion or as part of that discussion?
The censorship that I proposed after being censored for doing the same thing that Deb did, and not nearly as egregious in my opinion. Whenever you want, I don't know what exactly your question is.
We'll put it on the order of the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I have two. Community member for an email that was sent from a board member, Steve Green. And in that motion to censor and disavow the board from that email. A second motion will be for the board to seek legal counsel for the release of confidential board materials related to planned executive session from board members.
Okay, you want to put that under new business?
Please.
So that'd be before public comment, after the censorship?
Before public comment.
Okay, so 6.2, 6.4, read it to me.
Motion the board to seek legal counsel for the release of confidential board materials related to executive session materials presented.
Okay. And that's Creech. And the other one,
That's all for me. Thank you.
just the legal, just the one?
The other one was motion the board to offer a public apology.
Right. Do we need to add that or?
Those are, I just had two additions.
Okay,
That's the motion you plan to make.
Correct.
so we'll put that 6.5 under new business.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good to go, I think.
Just a clarification. So do you guys want the presentation to be on number 2, or do we want to do it under new business?
Your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
You want it at the top of the agenda?
We can do it either way, whatever's going to work better.
Okay.
I could do it as soon as possible.
Well, what was the,
Let's do it, I think at the top of the meeting would be great.
that sounds,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's great.
All right. I'm gonna slot you right in since we rearranged everything. Give me a second. Before the meeting minutes, okay? So, all right, additions, any other? We're done with additions or deletions? Help me make it through. Help me read my own writing. Are there any conflicts of interest relating to the agenda?
No.
Okay. All right, we're going right to Kyle.
Perfect.
Our new chief, Kyle Benson, would like to make a public statement and address.
Is there any, I know it sounds maybe there's not really going to do a presentation here.
Right.
So I apologize. I actually have a slide presentation. I know hopefully you'll see it. I'm going to bring it up here just so I can use it as reference. So for those of you guys who haven't met me, my name is Kyle Kasimba Benson. Yes, Kasimba, like the lion. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about myself, introduce myself to you guys in the community. Firefighters that are here. Talk a little bit about what brought me here and what I'm hoping to bring to the district. And then also a little bit about a proposal that I brought to the board based off of my interactions with the board and with the firefighters about potentially increasing what it means to be a fire chief for you guys serving the Golden Gate Canyon. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the way that I'm dressed. This is a little bit not normal for a fire chief. Why is the fire chief wearing cowboy boots and a brown belt? But a Golden Gate shirt with no badge. So we're going to talk a little bit about identity. We're going to talk about what it means to be a firefighter, what it means to be someone from Colorado, and what it means to be me, what it means to be Kyle Benson, current fire chief of Golden Gate Fire Protection. So I'm born here, not in Golden Gate, but just over the hill in Evergreen. I am a native of the mountains of Evergreen. I grew up on a horse ranch. My parents still breed fox trotters. I know what it means to work. I started working in emergency services when I was 18 years old. Career trajectory to go down, work as a firefighter paramedic in the mountain or in town, get a lot of calls in, and then bring that knowledge back up to the mountains. Let me give you guys a little bit of a hint. My dad is a very animated minister, and so I'm channeling him a little bit and going to be a little bit animated with the way I talk. So if it's like, wow, that guy like they talk like this, or I'm sorry. So that's kind of a little bit about me and my background. I worked for City of Netherland, where I currently work as a shift captain. I'm in charge of the district for an entire shift, and also as the training officer. I've worked for the for the town of Evergreen. It's actually a special district just like this, both of them are, and also for Crested Butte. I also spent almost 10 years in mountain rescue as a mountain rescuer EMT and a mountain rescuer paramedic for both Boulder County and for our service here in Jefferson County Alpine Rescue Team. So I've done a lot of stuff as a paramedic, done a lot of stuff in emergency services, and also done a lot of stuff in the fire service for quite a little bit of a while. The other reason I'm dressed like this is to talk a little bit about my philosophy. A fire chief is very much an executive role. It says so much in the job description that was put out by the fire district when they were looking for come to work every day in my boots, and I expect them to get dirty. I expect to be able to get down with my firefighters, as I told them in that first meeting with them, crawl the hall, because I like to train. I like to get out in the dirt and hike up and do rescues. I like to still be a paramedic. So while I'm still an executive white shirt on top, I'm very much the fire chief that likes to get in with their guys and get dirty and get the job done. And that's something that I'm here for you guys to do. So let's talk a little bit about one more thing. I also love the fact that I think a significant portion of the people I've come to these meetings tend to wear cowboy boots. I'm like, heck yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the future. So when I met with all of these fine ladies and gentlemen in my pre-hire end meetings, and then with the firefighters, we're having a hard time hearing online there, Chris. I'll stand back here. Hopefully they can hear a little bit more. They talked a lot about what it means for identity. That Golden Gate Fire Protection District has a really strong meaning for this community, for Golden Gate. It's one of the only defined services that holds the name of your community. This department means a lot for people who live here, and that's an incredibly special thing. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a vision of the future that came from things that were said through these meetings or meetings with firefighters or opportunities I had to speak to people in the community. And that's to foster a self-sustaining and self-reliant, community-focused fire district. A district that is both prepared for the future and shines in the present. You guys are gonna hear me say shine a lot today, so I apologize. In the present, as exemplary all hazards urban interface fire departments. So any questions on what kind of that vision encompasses a lot in one sentence? I just want to make sure before we move on, that everyone understands the terminology that was put out there. Anybody have any questions on that? No? All right. So let's talk a little bit about more like why I'm here. So first of all, I'm here because I really like service. But this opportunity that I have here with you guys is to also look at expanding the role of fire chief. You guys have given through all the conversations tons of great aspirational ideas, that we talked about, self-reliance, about ownership, pride, safety, and stability. If I heard one thing from every single mouth that I talked to moving into my accepting of the fire chief role, was stability from every single person. But along with these objectives also came concerns. Again, about stability. So with both sides of the coin, people really want stability and they see that as being a goal, but it's also the concern. Also bandwidth. I've heard it in regards to the fire chief. I've heard it in regards to the people on the board and also from the firefighters. Man, there's a lot to do, right? This is a geographically large area with a really cool, fine population that doesn't see a really ton, like a huge call volume, 120 calls a year. It's not a really large call volume for a fire district, but doesn't necessarily change all of the other things that have to happen in the background in order to ensure a properly functioning fire department, especially as we move forward into the future. So the bandwidth thing is really something that stretches all of us, but it really is one of those things that starts, operationally at the top with the fire chief in order to be able to move the district forward. When I came, before I accepted this job, I sought a lot of counsel. I had a great group of mentor fire chiefs from other mountain fire departments, flats fire departments that are outside of the state. I said, hey, I'm thinking about taking this role with this fire department that really seems like a really good fit for me. Just to give you guys a little bit of a background, when I got hired at Netherlands as a captain, my fire chief was relieved by their board about 6 weeks after I got there, and there was only 2 captains, and we had to step up into that chief's role and take on the district until we could hire on an interim chief and eventually rated one of the state chiefs, Chief Mike Scott, to take that position. And that fire district that was in a place where there was really poor morale. Finances were kind of messy, and there was a lot of things that needed improvement to give it a full 180. And that fire district is now private. And I saw the opportunity to come here and hopefully help you guys take the next step as a fire district and as a community. So let's go back here. Reflecting on all the conversations that I've kind of just detailed to you guys, the concerns that we have, the goals that the district has had. in my fiduciary responsibility for the operational success of the fire district, I'd like to propose an incremental increase to the job description of fire chiefs. I know that this is something that seems a little bit odd for someone who is brand new coming into this job. However, I'm someone who likes to be transparent and start with the right foot forward, not to get caught behind the 8 ball. So I'm up here talking to you all, talking to the board now about this idea. In doing so, this allows me to take a decrease in my professional obligations outside of the district and allow me to give more time and effort to this district, allow it to take its next steps into the future. This allows not just me as your current named fire chief, but also a potential fire chief in the future to be able to serve you at a higher level. I think that this allows us to both address the inward and the outward facing portions of the job a little bit better, and actually significantly better, and provides a way to pay for lasting success. We talked about stability, lasting success of the fire district. So let's talk a little bit real quick. So we talked about the primary goals of why we're here. The responsibility of increased allocation of time, the growth of the position allows for allows for district coverage during business hours. During the week, and having somebody in the district helps cover that gap and would allow for better coverage for you guys all for emergency response and significantly faster emergency response at that. Being a paramedic, the district is not currently set up as an ALF district. There's nothing currently that I can do as a paramedic in the district, but allow me to share that knowledge and eventually being able to provide that for the members of people who live in the district and people who visit it. And provide an extra level, a higher level of care faster. The same level of care that's coming down the hill in the ambulance that's coming from Stadium, and it would be present in the district when I would be here. And then it also allows me, like I said, to get my boots a little bit dirty. It allows me to get down with the firefighters and train and interact and do the things that I love to do. So with that, that was the original public presentation that I was going to give you all. As Director Creech mentioned, the board presentation that was meant originally for executive session did get out to you guys all. And while that is normally an SCA followed protocol that all HR is done under SCA under SCA rules in an executive session, you guys have all seen it, so we're going to talk about it. I don't let things happen behind my back. I came to you guys, to the board, with a promise of transparency and honesty. And I am going to want to make sure that you guys know what I'm here to propose and what I'm here to talk to you guys about. And like I said, I don't like things happening behind my back, and I don't want things to happen behind yours. So I'm here to talk to you guys about it plainly and honestly. So just so you guys know, the fire chief job posting was posted for $2,000 to $3,000 for a month for around 480 hours of work. That roughly translates to about 9 hours a week, 9.5 hours a week. I took that job description, broke it down to an hourly rate, and then put it at an exactly 1/2 time position. That 1/2 time position works out to a total package value of around $78,000. Half of that, or a portion of that, is a benefit support, with a portion of it being a part-time salary. That salary corresponds with all of the neighboring fire chiefs pretty closely, and does value my time and my experience as a chief adequately per hour. But it also is very sensitive to the district's budget, the district's needs. So it's still kind of allowing us to be sensitive to the budget and increase the job description a little bit to take the next steps. Does anyone have any questions about that? I'm like, I said, I'm being open and honest about everything that we're gonna talk about. With that comes with a PPA pension, which is the firefighter's pension that I'm currently on, and I have to stay on in order to maintain my future and retirement. And if I was to leave my job at Netherlands to be able to serve you guys higher. It does not include medical benefits other than FSA. And there's a few other quick things. I think there's a cell phone stipend as a chief, if you're required to be on call pretty much all the time. And it's a pretty standard benefit. And I think there might be one more in there.
Life insurance.
Oh, it's just a AD&D and life insurance provision, which is a standard. So again, this is me being transparent with you all. There's nothing for me to hide as far as what I'm asking the district and why I'm asking the district that. So is there any questions on that from either the board or, yes, sir?
I'm confused, Kyle. How much is your pay? I know what we advertised at, but I'm confused what the pay actually is, or with anybody, if we even have an agreement. We advertised at 2,000 to 3,000 for 40 hours a month.
Yes.
And and I just heard 78,000. So I'm very confused.
So the 2,000 to 3,000, so that's where I broke down that an hourly for the proposal. So you're correct, we have not signed anything yet, but 3,000 a month for 40 hours is where we broke down to an hourly that I then expanded to a halftime. So that's where that number comes
I
from.
don't understand.
So if we're to just
What
do
would we be paying you
what would be paying us right now? So we like,
when you're hired?
so, well, so the board did vote to nominate me as fire chief. There has not been a contract that's been signed. The proposal is based off of the job description that we spoke about. So it's based off of the number that was posted in the job description, broken down and then expanded to 1,040 hours, which is
Did you just prorate? We offered was basically quarter time,
correct.
and then you prorated that, you doubled it to halftime. Is that
Correct. And what you guys offered is actually not, it's a little bit less.
Yes.
So that's why, and then we went up to halftime. Yes, exactly what was done. And it's not just salary, it's the entire package.
As well.
Correct.
Are you going to accept the job offer as we gave it to you?
Correct. So I did accept to be your guys' chief. We have, if we do say it as it is, I still would like to say as your guys' chief, but we do need to make sure that we sign a contract based on the $24,000 to $36,000 range that was posted, and move forward as far as what that means, expectations from the board, hours posted, things like that. But yes, I am still planning on being your guys' fire chief.
Thank you, Kyle.
So when I read this, Kyle, it's not relevant then, where it says the salary is 68,000. That's not really the salary. That's just another number.
No, so that's the salary without the benefits. So the entire
And
package,
there's 10,000 more benefits, even though there was an addition error. It says 12, but there's really 10.
yes, it should be 10. I apologize if there says 12, that might have been a mistake on my side.
So then your salary is $78,000.
The total-
How much checks will we?
The total package would be 78,000, which is
That's
which is
we
what's
pay you
based,
per year.
which is what it's based off of the 36,000. And then that would be the
The compensation.
total compensation package.
The compensation package is salary plus benefits. It's not
This
all
is a
things together. Can you raise your hand in the audience if you received a copy of this proposal? Nobody? Okay. Can you raise your hand if you're confused about the difference between a salary and a compensation package?
I'm confused about salary.
Okay, so Steve Green's the only one in this room that's confused about what a salary versus compensation package is. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know.
Oh, so a compensation package is like we pay you a salary, those are the wages you take home, but there's also other things we might contribute to, like, hey, here's a cell phone, like a defrayment for your cell phone. It might cost you $100 a month. We'll pay you $50 a month to help you with your cell phone because you're using it primarily for work. It might include benefits for your retirement. Those don't go to you. They get paid into FPPA. For me, I get money that's paid into my 401k. So that's like, it's like, hey, we're going to pay you this much. And then additionally to that, these are fringe benefits that you get. I think it's AD&D, there's some sick leave and some things like that for him as well that he proposed. Yes, sir.
When you're talking 78, are you dividing that by the normal work week of per year of 2,080 hours?
No, we're
Or
doing,
you're saying
we're doing
half of that, so in reality,
Yeah.
the normal salary would be 2 times 78.
Yes, sir.
Correct. But that wouldn't be what is being paid by the district.
Technically, the salary would be 2 times 68,
Yes.
because the 10,000 are benefits, so it's $20,000 of benefits. I do this at work, so sorry.
Oh.
So we're paying you $68,000 a year.
That's the proposal.
Proposed was missing.
It says,
It's-
I have a position proposed in a very big capital letters on the stuff.
So did I?
Go ahead. Just a couple of things to clarify and then a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Hey.
So to clarify, we offered and you accepted a position. However, we did not make a formal offer with the funds or monies tied to the
Correct.
to the posting.
And or the expectations for me as far as, hours in the district, things like that. There was an hour of work, but the hours of work, but not really an expectation.
So you're our chief when we're within that range as posted, and we're talking about a vision plan for an increase. In your vision plan that I've seen, you have mentioned that there could be some revenue offsets.
Sure, and I was going to get to that next.
Thank you.
Yes. As long as there's no other questions from the community or the board.
I'm very confused what you're getting paid in spite of what Nikki says. I don't know what you're getting paid.
So currently, as of right now, because there is no contract that's been signed between myself and the board of directors, there is no actual defined number. There's only the range that was posted on the job description, which is what I agreed to.
Okay, Mr. Ryder.
I understand basically what you're saying is you want to increase from quarter time to half time.
Correct.
And also double your salary, whatever that may be, up
Correct.
to about 78,000 total comp package. Could you explain what increase in duties or responsibilities would occur as part of that,
That's a
as
great.
opposed to just time?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of different opportunities, things that have been done outside of the district. And you brought that into the district, whether that be training or investigate or not investigations, inspections. But there's also some things that are responsibilities of the fire chief that have not really been done to the fullest extent. As you could,
Camera one.
Things like.
Yeah.
We shut the camera for better connectivity.
Okay.
So volume is,
Still on the meeting.
we're on the meeting and volume has improved, sound quality has improved with camera shut off.
Okay, thank you.
Grant application rate. That's a really significant one. All the way down to just, general maintenance, deferred maintenance on the stations. It's really that, like I said, this is a position, I am still the executive, but I'm also the work groups type of position, and there's a lot of different pockets around the district that need that extra work. So it's not just one, I can't really give you like a list of, this, and this that come within the fire chief, because they all fall within the fire chief. The fire chief's main objective is operational success of the fire department. And in order for us to take the next step operationally, it requires time and effort and dedication. Does that give you kind of an answer to your question?
A little bit.
Would you like me to expand any further?
What's not being done that you would start doing? Chris, you were nodding.
Yeah, you're
Or
absolutely
something.
right. It's, as when I served in the position, I was constrained by having a job that required me to work banking hours. So I was at my desk doing my job as a civil engineer between 8 and 5 for weekdays. Just an example today is the Mountain Chiefs meeting every other Monday or something like that. In Evergreen, several hours, and is critical for building the operational synergy with all the adjoining mountain departments. I have never been able to attend those meetings because I have a job I have to go to. We have a convenient set of circumstances where Chief Benson's position at Netherland is a 4896, so he has more time during the week to allow actually achieving those objectives. Other work that's been delayed are things like permit inspections and sprinkler permits and going through that whole process. We've had to delay evaluation of standard operating guidelines, standard operating procedures, and major operational foundational documents like that. I've done what I can, but we are lacking more than 2/3 of the SOGs that our department requires to really have a codified operating picture.
Jared, Sam, you want to tell us the state of our fire stations right now? Like, what do they look like? What's the quality of the stations?
All right, so those things that
Not good.
There's a lot that is still going on. I had functionally an end with to do with.
I understand, thank you. Would that also mean, Kyle, that half your time in the district would be double as well? You'd
Yes.
be in the district for halftime?
Correct. And so let's actually expand on that. That's something I haven't touched on. So that's a really great thing. Currently, based off of that basically what ends up being about 9.5 hours a week, a lot of that, when I met with these folks, the chief prior, and chiefs multiple prior to that, have to spend a lot of that time outward facing. Right. There's a lot of things that are important about the executive role of the fire chief that are engaging with the county, with the state, and other regional assets as far as maintaining our relationships with other fire districts, and also making sure that we're in compliance with all these other regulations that come our way we can follow and meet operationally. This particular package or that we talked about would fix me in the district being within the district 16 hours total per week with 4 hours that would be a little bit more flexible outside. But my dedication would be at least to be within the district on this soil 16 hours per week.
And you would have another job somewhere else also, I
correct.
assume.
However, I would not be on a 4896. So the way that if you guys don't understand what the terminology came out of there. So the way that my current schedule works, I have a full 48 hours of continuous duty as the operational kind of head of Netherland when our chief is not there for 48 hours at a time. I cannot leave. That's my current job, and it would allow me to not do that and be able to be here. It also allows that time that I would be constrained to Netherlands for me to respond back to the district for a larger incident.
So you keep that,
I would not do that.
not
I will.
48 on 96 off. Is
Yeah.
that-
Can you describe the 3 or 4 things that you're doing right now and kind of what you're proposing to change? So you've got your own business,
Yes,
you're volley over at Evergreen.
not anymore.
Well, that was what you were. You were
Yes.
at
Yeah.
Ned. You had a job as a captain at Ned, and now you're taking on a fire chief. You dropped volley at Evergreen,
Correct.
right?
And we're talking about changing my job description. If this proposal goes through, I will change my job at Netherland. I will still remain at Netherland as their training officer, but I will not be fixed to the 4896 schedule. It'd be probably very part-time, probably about a day a week that I would be up there, still able to respond back to the district for a larger event.
Can you describe the 96 part of the 4896, please?
Yes, so 48 hours, it's a rotating schedule of 3. It's what all of the major departments, career departments are on. So when you're on duty, you are on duty in the district for 48 hours at a time, 2 days, from 7 a.m. the first day till 7 a.m. the third day. And then you rotate with 96 hours off. So 4 days off of that.
What about responding to calls?
So in what way?
How is that included in your pay? Or, I mean, you're not just going to be sitting in the firehouse doing paperwork. Are the responding to calls, is that additional time? Or, you're not going to respond to calls if you've used up in 48 hours? I don't understand.
No, that's a great question. So while I'm in the district, part of what the great added benefits of this position is actually providing that coverage during the workday to be able to respond to calls. I love still responding to calls. Outside of that, the time where I'm in the district, usually traditionally a fire chief responds back to the district for really large events, usually what we call a type 4 event, but it's really anything that's not a standard EMS call that would require a fire chief supervision. So it would be part of my job description for basically what's called callback.
Is that saying when for the 16 hours a week that you propose, you run every call?
Yes.
If I've understood correctly, you are a paramedic, which we
Correct.
currently do not have, so that's still in a large gap.
Yeah, so just so you guys, just in general, so again, clarifying jargon, EMT, there's 3 levels of EMS provider. EMR is the very, very basic level. A provider, it's around 65 hours of education. EMT is the next level. It's around 132 hours, I believe now. Paramedic is an additional, so you have to be an EMT first. For several years, then you get the opportunity to go to paramedic school. Paramedic school is a full 60 credit hours of education. It's very similar to someone going back after the bachelor's degree to become a nurse. It's almost exactly the same amount of education and time dedication. So it's a significant jump in knowledge and care ability.
Where do you currently live?
I currently live in Evergreen. I live in northern Evergreen. For me to get to, I come over Douglas Mountain to get into 81s. It's actually not very far. It's about 18 minutes when I time it.
I guess a real question is what's in the budget? Is that something that is affordable? Is it something that's gonna require a mill levy increase? What kind of money do we have for this?
Yeah, we are budgeted at the rate that we hired him, our chief.
Talking about the additional.
Yeah, we
Yes.
don't have that budgeted out.
But there is a mechanism where the budget can be amended if needed.
And do we have the money as of our last board meeting, and this information is public knowledge, we operate with a reserve contingency of about 1.6 years of continuation. So in the event that any additional spend is used, there would not necessarily be any mill levy needs because the monies are available to us in contingency currently.
And that cycles really well into the next section. If there's not any other questions, there's one more thing I really want to talk about with you all as far as I understand that's obviously a significant concern with a district that has a very constrained budget tax base. So is there any other questions about the proposal before we move forward? Okay. So let's move forward. We're gonna talk about something that is important to me. And that is the funding and the success of the district financially. I'm gonna pull this up for my own. So there are alternatives to funding outside of taxes. A lot of them take a lot of time and dedication and effort to achieve for fire districts. However, they are very common in other fire districts around us in the state, and they're actually built into the code. One of them we talked about a little bit is already consolidation of services of the district that we put out to the neighboring agencies, other entities. The other one is what's called a non-resident impact or response fee. There's a significant portion of our district that we provide services to that actually are not taxpayers. So they actually provide impact to the fire district. And there is a mechanism to be able to charge or request a fee for that service if it's something that the fire board decides that they would like to move forward with. That could be whether, someone who is gotten in a car accident in our district, who's calling for EMS. The one thing that gets a little bit tricky for that is a backcountry rescue call. There is a precedence in the state that we don't charge for backcountry rescue based off of it being the charge of the sheriff. And also in general, we really don't want to discourage someone from calling for a rescue and getting themselves into further trouble in the backcountry. So that's a pretty blanket thing that really is discouraged from charging an individual for. And like I said, it's just an option. It's definitely an option that the surrounding fire districts are considering based off of their user impacts. They see something similar where the majority of people that come into the fire district that are using the fire district services are not actually taxpayers. And the desire of the fire district is that they provide their share to help provide the services for the community that they're using. On top of that, there's other types of fee assessments. For example, I can't show you guys on a big sheet, but I pulled up the fee assessment that's done by Indian Hills Fire, which is a relatively similar size fire district. And that the fee assessment or the different things that they put out fees for is about a full page. It's about 30 different things that are assessed fees by the fire district for different services that are provided. So there's different ways to recoup through, if it's at the fire board so chooses to recoup funds in that way. The other one that we talked a little bit about with all of these guys, and we talked to Chief Enright, and is the idea of doing home assessments as the Jefferson County adopts the Willie Code, and people are really concerned about wildland fire. There is a potential mechanism in the future for the fire district to be able to participate in the home assessment program and pull funding in that way. And then finally, this is not exhaustive in any way. We talked about increased grant application rate. I had Director Creech pull a report for me regarding the grant applications for the last 10 years. And over the last 5 years, there has been, I believe, a total of 4 successful grants. Does that sound right?
It feels right.
I'll tell you that there, for all fire districts in general, the very blanket grants, there's about 10 of them every year that can be applied for. The success rate for other districts varies. I can tell you that the district that I currently work for has applied for $360,000 of grant funding in the last 2 months. And it has to do with bandwidth, being able to apply for those grants. They take a lot of time, effort, and dedication to make it happen. So you have to be able to apply for the grants to be able to actually get awarded them. And you'll be able to do them right. So that's a significant funding mechanism to move for the future. You know, I will say, someone brought up the idea of no levy. So this is just my personal feelings that all of these, to be a successful fire district, a modern fire district, you have to look at all of the different mechanisms of funding. And before, really say, hey, like, we're gonna like go for a mill levy, which is not really my purview, it's the purview of the board. All of these different funding opportunities at least have to be examined and see if they're prudent for the district in order to come back to the taxpayer. And I know that that's something that is really important to quite a few people in this district, but it really helps us look at a more rounded view of funding and to go back and make it full circle. In order for these to be realistic for the fire district, it takes a lot of time, effort, and dedication to make them happen. Any questions on any of that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We're going into new territory if we're going to start charging for our responses.
Sure.
That could be a conflict of interest. And the way it's been presented in your proposal, it sounded like these charges that are going to make up any shortfall for making up what I keep seeing as an increase or cost to us, which would be predominantly for your salary.
Okay.
I'm concerned with that.
Okay. So let me clarify a little bit. So when we talk about a non-resident impact fee, we're not talking about double taxation. We're not talking about sending a bill to people who pay for the fire district as a taxpayer. The mechanism that most fire districts use when they implement something like this is that everyone has to be blanket billed, but that there's a in-district basically 100% compensation. So you still receive something, but you actually say, hey, thank you for paying, being a taxpayer, and we were so glad that we were able to come serve you. You don't know anything. And there's no request that comes from that. So there's no double taxation that comes off of that or a conflict of interest on that.
I looked at this, like, when I first got involved with the board, because like we have a budget shortfall and like what we do here, it's like 90% of our calls are serving people that aren't living in our community, that don't pay taxes. But it gets complicated, right? So like the majority of my driving isn't in the canyon. So if I get in a wreck on 93, then I don't pay taxes in the city of Golden, right? So it's really tough to say, okay, well, all these people come through and they recreate up here, and they're the ones that going down Douglas Mountain in a snowstorm to beat ski traffic, and that's where all of our tax money goes, right? But you have to look at it, okay, well, I don't pay any taxes for the rest of my driving out there, and emergency services might help me. So it's tough to debate, and that's what we've got to come together with and like take input from you, like, how do we feel about that? When I was researching this more, they're like, will it be a race to the bottom where every single community in Colorado is going to charge you if you don't live in that community?
Right.
And that could be dangerous. But if you're a big city like Golden or Denver, that's different from being up here. Like they got, like and we're just sitting here paying money for the people in the city to get in car wrecks and stuff like that. So it's something we got to discuss. But I definitely think I'm like, hey, we love where we live, but we're paying money for other people to have all their service from our fire department. So,
and like I said, this is not a decision of a fire chief. This is just an option for the board. And it is something that is definitely common among other fire districts, especially specifically for car accidents.
Does insurance pay that?
Insurance pays for it. That's correct.
Now, I just got an insurance bill, and on that bill, it had a fire department response fee.
From the district?
No, not from the district, but no, the insurance company is charging me to have fire department to respond.
My guess, that might be because of the fact that so many districts are actually charging insurance. I'm not quite sure why your personal insurance would be doing that, so I can't speak to that because I don't work for insurance. Your homeowner's policy?
Really?
That wouldn't be part of the fire district's charge.
I know, because it came from the insurance company, but so it's in other words, a lot of fire departments are charging charging back to the insurance companies for everything.
I think that's the private mitigation, fire response that's provided by some insurance companies.
Yeah, that would be my other kind of where I was gonna go. So it also, and Director Primer, I can look at that with you and try to help you decipher that, because that's definitely a
Already talked
different
to the
thing.
agent, don't worry.
Pardon?
Already talked to the agent.
So that'd be, that, yeah, so what Chief Enright just mentioned is that a lot of a lot of homeowners insurances are actually providing their own fire response in order to protect their assets, and that might be what they're referring to.
That might be it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say.
I know there are several that have pre-positioned apparatus in the front range to protect their assets. So those are kind of, again, the funding opportunities that we wanted to go through. Is there any other
Quick
questions?
question on the fee for service.
Yes.
To me, I see three different possibilities. So I live here, I pay taxes here. If I had a heart attack and you guys had to come, I wouldn't pay the fee for service
Correct.
because I'm here. If someone who lives down in Wheat Ridge or something comes up here and they have they have a heart attack, they would pay the fee for service.
Correct.
What if my mom, who's visiting me from Florida, has a heart attack?
So usually it's done by address. That's also something that can be done there, but it's frequently billing gets done by address.
His question needs some clarification.
Yeah.
When AMR or the stadium shows up, they will bill you for the transport.
Correct. And that's correct. So we can't look at the private ambulance service. We can't affect what ambulance is gonna charge you. But as far as, if that's an avenue that the district wanted to do in order to recoup fees, to help hopefully broaden the budget, my goal is actually, and to address an earlier point, way beyond what I am asking for as an increase. I'm hoping that this would be a substantial increase to the budget by looking at this, that it would, it'd be part of that. Julie, did you have a question?
You had spoke about grants earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand correctly that you're saying that you can double the amount of grants that you apply for?
I think we could probably at least do double. Yeah, there is a significant amount of grant funding available for the fire service, especially now, and especially in the wildland arena. There is many millions of dollars available in the grant funding, both nationally, locally, and state.
Can they cover salaries? That's one of the questions I have. Can they go towards salary or does that go towards that?
So grant funding is usually ring fenced around for certain items. So this is a really important thing that we can talk about actually. There are very few grants that actually pay for people. There are a lot of grants that pay for things. So buying new equipment, PPE, buying fire trucks, buying ambulances, buying EMS equipment. That's expensive to a fire district or to a police department. That's really where a lot of that funding is. There are several grants that can be used for salaries, but they are really not as frequent. Usually the grantee likes to see a solid asset that comes out of the grant.
So we're talking more about, hey, we've got a line item in the budget, you get grant dollars to offset that.
Correct.
That means we can pay it towards your.
And or there's a goal of the district of XYZ, and how do we get there by applying for a grant? Even if it's something that it's not affordable by the budget currently.
Who would do all the grant paperwork?
That would be something that would be a responsibility of the fire chief.
I know.
If anyone wants to help with grants, let's do it, but.
I was able to agree because they were not as bad as the other grants. That's still.
And I'll just for comparison, so Chief Enright, does the board know that what we've talked about as far as your remaining of the.
I might as well clarify.
Okay, clarification. Operationally, Chief Enright has agreed to stay on as the assistant chief as chief. So we now have a chief and an assistant. So Chief Enright and myself both applied for the firefighter safety and disease grant, which is kind of one of the easier grants that's provided by the state. It's heavily funded and it frequently yields grant money. It took me about 8 hours to put together. And that's one of the smaller grants. grants. It takes a lot, and so that would be, equivalently, just to do one grant is 1 week of work as the fire chief currently. So it's quite a lot of time. Any other questions as far as that?
Can I read a Zoom question, please?
Yes.
How many, I won't read it word for word because it's not in the right party, but how many grants have you written and have you tracked a success rate?
That's a really great question. So I've actually been a part of more grants than I can count on my fingers. Usually a lot of the grants that I've been a part of are team grants where we have multiple people writing them and pulling data for. A lot of my job at Netherland and other departments has actually been the data person who takes infers or the data that comes from the fire department and goes to FEMA and applying those back to grants. So that's been a lot of my portion of running grants. But usually I would say last year, we'll give you an estimate from Netherlands. We had about a 75% success rate. We only got denied for 1 grant last year. Out of, it's even higher. So 1 grant out of 5 that was applied for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I'll make a comment.
Yes, sir.
If this board is getting along better in the past, and there's time, I've gotten well over 100 grand worth of grants for this district. The
That's awesome.
compressor, the generators, the FCBA's. So it would be good if this board could act above board and get along and make some time with people. We could help out on these grants.
Well, I would love to look forward to working with you on getting some grant stuff. Yeah, we definitely would. Any other questions on grants or anything like that with funding? And like I said, that's not an exhaustive list. There's plenty of opportunities for for fire districts to find ways to make money outside of taxes. And like I said, it's not one of those things that guarantees a future board not asking for a mill levy or going through all of our funding and saying, hey, that we actually do need to go to our people to ask for taxes in the future. It's not exactly precluding of that, but hopefully it provides a little bit more of a rounded picture as far as what financing would be for a district. Julie, do you have another question?
About the other fire department you mentioned that's about our same size.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they have about the same amount of community, amount of people?
Yes.
And can you tell me, do you know what their tax rate is?
I believe, so we were talking about this in the morning, this morning in the Mountain Chiefs meeting. I believe they are at 14 mills. And there's a large consolidation going on in 285, just for comparison point, with North Fork Fire, Elk Creek Fire, and Inner Canyon Fire. And they're going to request, sounds like anywhere between 14 to 16 mills. Netherland Fire just passed a mill levy that was 16 mills progressive to 18.
And what are we?
9.06, right?
So we're like the lowest in Jefferson County.
I don't know if we're the lowest in that. I can't speak to that specifically. However, I mean, it is what it is currently, right? So I really couldn't tell you how it compares to other fire districts. There are quite a few other districts that are significant. Any other questions before we move on, and I'll wrap this part up?
Did they take a vote to raise the mill levy in the other districts? You probably aren't aware.
For the other, so in Netherlands, when we just passed a mill levy, and yes, it was done on a vote of the people, the taxpayers of the district. I will say, actually directly answer your question, I have, as far as significant mill levy, that's not trying to keep your the budget the same as the district continues on from year to year, where you're actually increasing your operational budget. That has always been a vote of the people. Any other questions regarding that? All right. So in summation, I just kind of want to let you guys all know 2 things. There's one other thing that we'll put out there that was in the board meeting. As far as stability, there is another option for stability as the board moves forward with the fire chief. And that is actually the execution of a chief's contract. That's not something that I am asking for, but it is something that frequently fire districts do in order to make sure that a chief stays with them for a period of time in order to ensure future stability of the fire district. It's just a note that's in there as an option for the community to know about, for the fire board to know about. It's that some fire districts do it, some don't. It's just an option that's in there. I want you guys all to know that as we move forward, regardless of the way that the board moves as far as enhancing what it means to be a fire chief in Golden Gate, I very strongly believe that the future of Golden Gate Fire Protection District is very, very bright. And it's very full of opportunity. I told you I was going to talk about shine for a second. So this right here on the chief's chest, that sits over your heart for a reason. I don't have one here because I haven't signed any contracts, and also we haven't ordered one yet. We just fixed that. But that represents what it means to be a fire district and to be a firefighter, to shine outwards. And my main goal as I come into Golden Gate is to help this fire district shine, help the firefighters shine, help the district shine, and shine not only inside so that we feel our shine, but everyone else sees it. And that's why that's it.
I do have a question. So you say that we have a bright future.
Yes, ma'am.
So at this point, looking at everything that you know, you don't see that it's necessary for us to join another department?
So as of right now, that's a fair question. My goal is to focus on what it means to be Golden Gate Fire Protection District and a member of the Golden Gate community, and make this center of this community as great as it can be by itself. It doesn't mean that we don't participate with other fire departments. It doesn't mean that we don't try to encourage us to work with all of our partners. It doesn't mean Timberline, it's not just Golden, it's not just Fairmount or what may end up being our data, and it's not just Coal Creek. And it's not even just them, it's actually the whole county, and it's not even just that, it's actually the whole state. It's about trying to take Golden Gate and make it, like I said, shine out.
You've mentioned several times our first step or our next step. What is our first step?
So that's a really great question, actually. So I am what I'd call a facilitative leader. I don't make autocratic decisions. I look to my firefighters, to those around me, to the community, and to the board to make decisions about next steps. The step that we're taking right now, as far as bringing me on as the fire chief and me getting accustomed to what it means to be the district or the fire chief for you all in Golden Gate, is the next step that I see. And then communally, we come together and we actually create that next step, the strategic plan, you know, the 1, the 5, the 10-year plan as we move forward. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
No problem.
The financial side of that. So at 68,000 for half a year, I'm trying to see, how are you commensurate with other departments of this side?
Mhm.
So 68 for a half a year, that's 136 for a full year salary.
Mhm.
And then 10,000 on top of that makes it 146,000 a
Mhm.
year. Is there a vehicle on top of that as well?
There is a take home for the ability to respond back to the district for an emergency. That's usually important for a fire chief to have a take
So
home.
then a vehicle adds about, I think in today's date is about 12,000.
And the vehicle's already included in that.
And you already have that included in the.
That would be way included because even the government tax you with about 12,000 a year
Sure.
income. So you're talking also the ADD insurance, and life insurance. So
The 10,000 doesn't necessarily
the
the 10,000 doesn't necessarily double, like, for the full year.
I didn't know, I only took it once.
Yeah.
So,
That's what got you to the 146.
okay,
You add 12, if there's gas involved, maybe a little more. So it takes you up to
And I will say in general,
150 some thousand over a year salary.
when you look at the districts around us, when we look at the salaries of fire chiefs in we're talking about flats. We're talking about mountain chiefs. It's pretty commensurate as far as, especially when we look at it in relation to districts and hours. And in general, like I said, a take-home vehicle is part of the responsibility of the job.
We were already paying that for the previous chief and the gas reimbursements as well, so that's not new.
All right.
I'm concerned is this, if I'm not, I keep being told by the gentleman here to my right that I'm not hearing this properly. But I keep hearing 68,000 and you're doubling your hours, or I think I hear, or 16 hours a week.
It actually ends up being 20 hours a week.
But I also know we only get 120 calls a year, but that's being counted in a new way because that includes the false alarm, the canceled call, and there's something else. But it's really pretty flat at around 75 to 85 a year of actual calls. I also have heard that some of our calls, our timberline has been added into some of our calls, which confuses me again, but I get easily confused because these numbers get inflated. But I think our incidents are still only around under 90 for sure, but maybe over 80. So I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing you're proposing, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I am, you're proposing to work more. We have these low number of calls, probably double to triple what we've paid in the past for a fire chief. And I'm worried about our budget. We also have people who want to upgrade station one. We have the call for trucks. At the moment, a fast response SUV. We also have, I hear calls for brush trucks. Those are quite expensive. They're not 30 grand. Those are 60 grand used, maybe 80. So I'm worried.
And Chris, what's the percentage of calls that are responded to by our firefighters?
The percentage of calls responded to our firefighters,
Well, I mean, there's a number that you kept on giving us. It was like, we had a call, we had 0, like, in district.
You know, I don't know those off the top of my head. It was greater than 0. Yeah, which is the wrong answer. Unfortunately, it's the wrong answer for us to district.
Yes, we have a lot of calls in our district that none of our firefighters respond to. Mr. Green mentioned that, yes, we respond to Timberline. The numbers that we see in the chief's report that I've been reading, it's about even the number of mutual aid calls we get from Timberline and the ones we respond to with Timberline. So again, we have to figure all this out. Like we don't have it in our budget to have him double his hours right now. So we have to talk about that. So it's a proposal and we'll figure it out. So
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make a comment on no matter how much analysis we did on how many calls we did last year, last week, it's that next call that matters. And if we have somebody on the district that can get there to save one of you, then we have to analyze the cost of that, of course, but we're talking about increased services.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think
my
And a
thought.
lot of it's also beyond the actual response to a call.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things, as we know,
Significantly.
that has been ignored and neglected over the last few years. There's going to be plenty for this young man to do, but I want to be very, very clear. Julie, you want to go ahead?
No, you finish.
I want to be very clear. The executive session is where we're going to be discussing with Kyle his proposal. Nothing is written in stone. He's already told you that he is on board. The executive session, no action can be taken. So we will be negotiating with him because as you can tell from his presentation, there are a number of different variables that can be adjusted, changed, whatever. That's what we're going to be discussing with him. And then we will come out of executive session. You won't know the details, but we will hopefully have a contract. Okay.
Just to make sure everybody knows. My wife's the one who has to approve the contract. Yes.
Julie, did you have something?
Am I correct in saying that along with all of this, wildland fires have jumped immensely in recent years?
Correct. And also the size and severity of wildland fires have jumped, it's like beyond actual true measures.
And as Golden Gate goes, we've been pretty dang lucky when it comes to.
Historically, I'm not the one to speak to that.
It's correct. We've had one type 3 incident in the last 10 years. And that feels below the statewide average for an area of 50 square miles of what I have used in classes as the definition of wildland urban interface.
We're gonna burn. We will burn. We will burn.
Well, we're here to stop that.
I know.
Yeah.
And now it's not just us, right? It's us and maintaining the relationships with those around us and the county and all our mutual aid partners and state. And those relationships are really what is gonna prevent us from having a larger incident than what we need to.
And education.
And education and prevention.
And prevention. Okay, are we ready to move on with the
Yeah, make
agenda?
sure.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kyle. Thank you. Next is approval of the meeting minutes. The item is approval of the January 19th, 2023 meeting minutes. I think you submitted one yet again. Is that correct, Steve?
Not the January 19th, they haven't been some,
So they're just the same as they were?
No, January 19th would be last month's.
Yes.
minutes. I do not believe that we've received any draft minutes for 19th January.
I've been paying attention.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, was that the one that, okay, sorry.
Yeah, the 10 pages.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a long meeting.
Yes, it was. So,
Thinking of the previous.
I have a couple of questions about the minutes that were presented.
okay.
Have they changed from our first February meeting? Has any additional minutes changed from what was previously presented?
A couple of people gave a couple little items. in there
Yes,
that-
I suggest,
They got sent out again.
Okay, and what source was used to produce the minutes? Was it a personal recording or was it a Zoom recording that everyone has access to?
It was this recording.
And have you made that recording available to the
I
board?
offered it to you.
Okay,
All board members have been offered that recording.
okay. Could you please provide,
66 megabytes.
could you please provide that to me?
I don't know how to send it on the internet. You'll have to come over and copy it. I've offered that to you.
Okay, thank you for that. My objection to the 10-page document that we're calling minutes is that it's not minutes. It's a mini transcript. The transcript was written by an individual based on information that has yet to been provided to the board for validation. The mini transcript does not fall in guidelines with Robert's Rules of Orders for producing minutes for a meeting. And therefore, I object to those meetings and will vote no.
anybody else? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to?
I make a motion, we approve the January 19th minutes as they were sent the last time they were sent, which I have a copy here.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor of approving the January 19 minutes?
Aye.
Right?
All opposed?
Nay, no, aye.
Understandable, you three would want to approve.
Point of order.
There's a lot in there.
It shouldn't be conversation, Steve. It should be just the facts.
If anybody would like access to the Zoom recording of every single word that was said, you can request that instead of reading an individual's interpretation of specific selected quotes.
So everything's in there. It's not specific selected. And this is the way it's always been done since the beginning of time in the district.
I would like extra copy of that.
I would like to request a copy of the.
Sure.
If you
I'll
could,
do it.
could you please email me copies or see me afterward? I will write down your email address, but I don't know all names.
The video, yes.
Yes, I will make Zoom access available to any member of the community who wants it.
I would like to make a motion that video and audio recordings of each meeting be posted within 1 week of the meeting on our website.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion on that?
I believe, well, I guess I won't be doing minutes. You can just do the videos.
The only discussion that I'd add to that is that might cause us to incur additional costs in our web hosting One thing that go ahead,
We can just use YouTube.
just post them to YouTube.
Yeah, that's how the state of Colorado does it,
Okay,
and it works just fine for our
We'll do
public
that,
meetings.
just put YouTube and stuff, because our
Okay.
Zoom will run out of space at some point. And then I have them saved, but then they get deleted, so we'll post to YouTube and.
I'll create a department account now and
Perfect.
be ready for when we're ready.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to post Zoom / did you say YouTube?
To YouTube.
Oh, to
Just the
YouTube.
hosting location.
Okay,
Well, then,
within,
the minutes are
within,
no longer then. We're not gonna be
with
doing
one
minutes
week.
anymore.
We're not.
with 1 week,
The motion-
saying
motion
for
the
Point.
motion is to approve hosting recordings.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about,
Steve.
is there gonna be any need for minutes anymore?
Yes,
Why am I gonna keep this recorder running?
that's your choice.
Chris, no, you're saying you're doing the Zoom.
Our bylaws.
But this is a
require-
personal recorder, you say. That's my personal opinion in here.
Our bylaws require us to post minutes from meetings afterwards. I think it's within 3 days of a meeting, they're supposed to be posted minutes online.
That's never happened.
Secretary.
Never happened.
But that's what the bylaws say.
Mr. Green, if you no longer wish to do the minutes, you can appoint someone else and I will gladly accept those minutes. Have to be minutes produced.
An honest report on the minutes. They're accurate, they're precise. The rest of these are, they
All right.
try to maintain and
Check
they
it out.
try to put in something else that's not there.
we
I
have a
agree with
motion,
Dave. They're inserting
have a-
things in the minutes that aren't
we
there
have-
and the other minutes are doing.
Steve,
So I
we
just
have a
want to,
motion.
make sure that I have a motion, it's just for posting the recordings online. I have
Within a
not
week.
stated that we're not required to do minutes anymore. I don't know where somebody heard that, but no one up here has said that we no longer required to do minutes. I certainly didn't say that. It's been recorded. So this is one of these things that we keep on running into. There are recordings of the things that we say at these meetings, and then somebody says that it didn't happen. But I never said that we're not doing meeting minutes. I just want us to provide recordings to the public. That's the motion. It's been seconded. If there's no other discussion on that, I would ask our.
Yeah, I have some more discussion. So if they're not accepted, we have about 15 hours of work.
It didn't have to be like that.
These are honest minutes. Everything on these. minutes is in that
Talking
recording.
about.
Excuse me, the recorder, I'm sorry.
Point of order
I'm
is-
talking.
Hey, hey, hey.
If you touch me again with that paper, you will regret it. I promise you. Not touch my.
It's not trying to.
So we have the motion on the floor is just about posting the recordings. And so if there's any other conversation, it's not germane.
Excuse me, the guy was talking, I don't think.
So
he
that's-
gets interrupted.
Steve,
You just have them not accepted.
you don't have to.
But I do have to, where I'm hearing. I don't have to, I do have to. What is it?
You need to look at the guidelines for minutes, Steve.
I am looking at.
You
You
don't,
guys, who
you
wants this
don't have to
proof?
write every
Excuse me.
single word that's been written for
I
10
write
pages.
What people said. Who in truth doesn't want what they say in the minutes? You don't want what you say in the minutes.
It's not what the minutes is.
It doesn't matter, it's in the bylaws.
Oh, Julie, you're not on the board. Be quiet.
Hey, hey, hey.
I would like to motion that we follow the.
Raise your hand. Let the record show that.
Can we
They
just
want-
vote on the
I will
motion?
motion that we move to our protocol on meetings. Mr. Green, if you would like 10 minutes, I will gladly set a clock.
10 minutes. I want to reply to what you're saying. I don't need 10 minutes.
Okay.
I have replied.
Okay,
Okay, so
finish.
Motion to vote on Niffy's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
All opposed?
Okay.
All opposed?
That was Primer and.
Okay. It passes. So recording will be put up a week after the meeting, accessible on the website. Is that correct?
Yep. We're gonna run.
Okay.
First, keep in mind, the camera.
Point of order.
That the
Point.
camera and that recorder are not rotated to show who is talking. Or are they? Is it?
For reference, our Zoom audience knows that we have disabled the camera because we have an unstable internet and it has improved their sound quality. So no audio is being, I'm sorry, no visual is being recorded. All audio is.
We're going to move on to the approval of the September 1st, 2022 meeting minutes. This was a meeting where no minutes were taken. And we have two submissions, one from Mr. Green and one from Niffy. I'm going to ask approval of the September 1st meeting minutes from Steve Green. Do you want to say anything about it?
Yes, I do want to have discussion about it.
You have 10.
Mitsu, at that point in time, was doing the minutes. Mitsu was the administrative assistant on September 1st. Mitsu didn't cooperate to do the minutes. I believe Deb asked Mitsu to do the minutes. I believe that Deb asked Mitsu for the recorder, but I did not. Did you, Deb?
I asked her for the minutes of recording, or I asked her for the minutes and they weren't forthcoming.
Okay. The discovery that there were no minutes for September 1st happened approximately very recently, in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I was researching the chief hiring committee. Reading all the minutes, listening to all the recordings that were available to me. And I noticed there were no September 1st minutes, which were very important minutes because Chief Damian DeVale was dismissed on that date. And interim chief Chris Enright was hired on that date. That's important events in this district. They need to be documented. I told everybody I was going to produce the minutes. I produced the minutes the best I could from memory. The next day, Nippy said, if I have a recorder. So I went back and listened to the link Nippy sent me for the recording. That's a very poor quality link. I could barely get it to function. I spent all day listening. I spent from 6 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon trying to make his link function. It would fail every 3-4 minutes. I have to renew it. I was predominantly looking for what Nippy wanted me to put on the minutes, which I couldn't hear, which was the formation of a chief hiring committee. The reason that was in there is because there's been complaints that there were some people excluded from the process of chief hiring. So Nippy wanted it in the minutes that there was a formation of a chief hiring committee. I find no information into the agreement for He says it was there, and he inserted that into his version of the minutes, but I sure can't hear it on the recording he furnished me. So if it's not on the recording, I don't put it in the minutes.
This is a transcript, written transcript of that recording. So why don't we do this? Steve, would you be willing to do this? Would you be willing to review the transcript? And we'll deal with the minutes at the March meeting?
At the next meeting?
Yes.
Oh, we're putting this off too long. No, I can't keep dealing with minutes.
Well, they're
minutes
not,
on minutes.
yeah,
No, it gets to be too much.
So,
So I have a transcript of it here too.
no, but if you'll compare the two transcripts, look at the difference.
so
The one I
Mr. Green has claimed in an email to me that there was never any chiefs hiring committee. He kept on saying it was a long time ago. I couldn't remember what happened at the meeting. And so I told him, if you're having difficulty remembering what took place at that meeting, here is a recording. After calling me a liar and telling me that there was never a chiefs hiring committee, I furnished him with that recording in which he is the one who brought up the chiefs hiring.
That's
committee.
right. I brought it up.
He is also the one who declined to be a part of the chiefs.
That's not true.
We identified that myself, Deb Curley, and Mr. Enright would be on that chiefs hiring committee. She is on the recording saying that's what the committee is. He declines being on the committee. Dr. Kennard and Ms. Carlin also declined being on the committee. And there's also further in the recording where, again, Dr. Kennard says, okay, now that we have the committee, here's what we're going to do. In that recording, I'll say, hey, all because we're talking about spending money on advertising, we should probably put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Our interim chief, Enright, at that time was like, hey, we actually don't have to spend any money on this. I'll just advertise for it. We'll have a chiefs hiring committee. The concept that there was never a hiring committee for the chief is kind of ludicrous. Because otherwise, why would Miss Curley, myself, and this for the past 4 or 5 months, talk about the job description? Why would he put it in the chief's report month after month? Here's what the hiring committee is doing. How did we interview our new chief, Mr. Kasimba Benson, and then hire him? This is.
Do I get time to rebut
It's a little-
what he
it's
said?
a little ridiculous what we're talking about. I'm more than happy, and I've said several times, I don't say things without proof. I have recordings of everything that happens. So that's, I just, we can go back and forth on this, or we can just approve the minutes as I put them. We can play the recording for everyone in the audience, but we've been wasting time. I have emails saying, hey, I don't understand why you're arguing about things that are fact. Why are you wasting your time? Why are you wasting the community's time? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what we're doing here. So like I would we approve the minutes that as I proposed them for the 1 September 2022 meeting.
And I second that. And
Will we have a discussion about this first?
yes.
We just
Okay.
discussed it, I thought.
You discuss.
Each board member can have a round and a second round. So Mr. Green, you have another round of discussion if you would like an additional 10 minutes.
I just want to discuss it. It's not on the recording, you said, what is on the recording, and I would never have said I don't want to be part of the chief hiring committee.
I emailed where you said you didn't want to. It's like you emailed me saying you are correct. I declined.
There was no vote taken. It's not on any other minutes either. That's all I know.
Is that it?
I was doing a lot of work. You were nowhere to be found. I wanted to be part of the chief hiring process. And I said so clearly on the September 1st meeting.
You wanted to have.
And I don't really care because Kyle's fine. I got no problem with Kyle, except we haven't solved the salary. So I don't really care, but I don't like people inserting falsities into the minutes. I don't like people not accepting what happened and saying these minutes are no good. There's many people here in this meeting that know what happened at the January meeting, and there was a lot of criticism going around. So of course, a few board members in here don't want that to be known, and that's the reason we won't accept the minutes.
Stay on topic.
That's done.
September 1st is what we're talking about.
Well, we can approve the minutes, but they're not, Niffy's minutes are not true, parts of them.
I have a motion and a second to approve your version of the September 1st.
Whose version?
Niffy. And the only people voting on this will be
And we will have that recording posted to the
Yes.
website. Mr. Enright is able to.
I'll upload it from not this internet.
Okay. Okay, under old business,
That's right. Except I don't like it. Hold on a second.
What agenda number? What agenda number? I'm sorry, what agenda number are we on?
Mr. Reed's getting
Here it is, I
very
got it.
good order. I would propose a motion that this
Ballot.
board
Yeah.
not utilize ballot issue A to alter the mill levy for the duration of our term, which lasts until May. So that is my proposal as a motion. This board presently seated until the new board is seated in June will not use ballot issue A to alter the mill levy or change anything for the taxes. That is my motion for this board. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Discussion? It doesn't matter about the mill levy, not certified until December, so it's irrelevant. That's
Any
what
other
they
discussion?
No,
Any other discussion? All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
that's staying.
Okay.
Okay, 2 abstentions and 2, yes.
Water. Dave, are you coming back?
Yeah, you need water?
Yeah, grab me a water, please. I'm gonna wait till Dave gets back.
What these are?
It's a transcript that has been discussed previously and will be discussed later. That will you repeat the last vote?
The last vote was,
The last motion that passed was that this board would not alter or raise the mill levy. And that passed with Creech, Curley, and O'Leary voting in the affirmative, and directors Primer and Green abstaining.
Okay. Ballot issue A, once again. I'm not fighting for ballot issue A for myself. I'm fighting for ballot issue A for the rights of taxpayers. I don't get anything out of it. I don't get my batteries that I get for this, and they're quite expensive. We go through them every time. Anyway. This board has chosen to cost the district at least 8,000 more if we're going to vote on it again. It could have been put on this ballot quite inexpensively. The designated election official said for the cost of the mailing and a little printing, well under $1,000. I think she said $450. That could be sent out to everybody. That's why if we took it to a lawyer, but the wording is so simple, I don't even think it needs to go to a lawyer. Everybody's lawyer these days, you might want it. But the lawyer said $500. That was Jeff Erb. That was before any complicated issues were brought to him. And what Jeff Erb suggested, and Jeff Erb was brought to me by Sarah Shepard, who is our designated election official. He said the way you solve it is you write a ballot question as I'm about to read you. Shall the Golden Gate Fire Protection District Board of Directors be required to have an election, that means a vote of the public, to raise the mill levy rate above the current 9.016 rate? Yes or no? Very simple. Doesn't take a lawyer. You could get one if you want for $500. He said he'd look it over, but he suggested it too. It was so easy. It could be up until tomorrow. It can be put on the ballot. 28th is the deadline. Sarah Shepard sent us all an email. I shared it with the board. But 3 board members here have chosen to say they want to put it on a November election. That will cost us at least 8,000, maybe 12, maybe 15. It's going to cost this district a lot more money to get rid of what was originally not cost this district more money, but they insist on it. There's still until tomorrow. If you can convince one person, because Dave and I both vote to put it on the May election. If we can convince one more board member, it could be submitted tomorrow and put on the ballot. And that would give everybody in this room the right back to vote on their own mill levy increases. So that's all I have to say. It's up to the public. I can't do anymore.
I'd like to make a couple of points of comment. Nothing new has been said that wasn't said at our last meeting. I'm not going to regurgitate all of the things that I've said. I'll make a few points. No formal proposal has been presented to this board to review. No statements of work, we've only received a rough magnitude of order. The simple language that Mr. Green has presented that was given to him by an attorney and submitted in a formal documentation. To review, I did have a couple of free consultations with other attorneys. The first attorney that I spoke with said, whoever suggested that one simple language to be put to a ballot initiative, you should run far away from them. That is information that a pre-first year law student would never suggest for a ballot initiative, because it would invalidate itself the first time the mill levy changed. When you,
change.
excuse me, sir, I'm speaking.
He's speaking.
When you have a ballot initiative that is targeted to 9.016 as the only time that the board could, as soon as this board chooses to lower our mill levy, that ballot initiative is no longer valid. So we are right back where we are arguing whether ballot A is valid. The three members of the board that have wanted to put ballot A onto an initiative have tried to do so following statute, guidelines, best practices, and common sense. Let's not jump into doing something that is going to keep this community where we are, fighting over ballot A forever. Let's do it right, and that takes time. Hopes of presenting a ballot A initiative in a November election.
We voted.
That's already voted and already approved.
On November. We can't on our own undo ballot A. Well, that was part of my, that motion I put forward is that the board will not raise the mill levy. So that is passed. So this board will not raise the mill levy. That's not happening. But the voters have to overturn ballot A, and we want to make sure that we do it right. So that, you know, part of me doesn't even think ballot A is in effect. I've always thought that, like Gallagher's not here, so like the thing can't even be valid, but
Why not get rid of this?
where.
Why not just get rid of it?
You had your chance to speak.
Here's my question, has it been verified whether or not ballot issue A even matters?
So Miss Carlin, when she was on the board, she reached out to a paralegal because we were going back and forth, and there was a paralegal who provided an opinion that said it was still in effect technically. And that's why we've been going down this path of circle and circle, but
I can answer that question with specificity. DOLA, the Department of Local Affairs, I believe, if that's correct, has suggested that our ballot A is still valid and that it could still be used. We have our current attorney, TEGR Law, when we discussed placing the ballot A initiative on this current election cycle, suggested to us that what we were attempting to do was extremely complicated because it has never been done that a district would vote to absolve a previously elected ballot initiative when the board has a choice of effectuation, meaning even though something may trigger the reason to use ballot A, the board doesn't have to do it. There's no compulsory process. So our attorneys of record to date have issued an opinion to us that they're not sure how you would ever go about doing away with ballot A. So yes, ballot A likely is available to the board to be used. And it is an extremely complicated issue, according to our current attorney's opinion, that it would be hard or complicated to do away with. And that is why 3 members of the board want to continue to research and how we can do it right.
And there's some other
The
stuff.
current attorney's opinion, by the way, was influenced well beyond before any board meetings, have made things completely contradictory to other attorneys. So, and ballot issue A was enacted, why can't you unenact it? These are the, as voted on by the public, voted on by the public. Don't leave this board with the ability to tax 1,200 people without their permission. And I may say, there were only 3 people on this board until December 8th. That means 2 people could have voted in favor of raising all of your mill levy and another 1,100 people too. It's a dangerous proposition.
If certain conditions were met.
No.
I'd like to motion to end conversation. Nothing new has been presented and no motion has been presented. So I would motion to end conversation on whatever agenda
I'm going to
topic.
recognize that you 3 cause this district a very large extra expense if you even do it. I doubt you'll.
There's some other stuff that I think would be cool too, like when we do put this on a ballot initiative. One of the things that got my mind changed about, yeah, we need to put this on the vote, is there's no mechanism to lower the mill levy. So right now, the board can vote to raise the mill levy to keep the total revenue the same, but there's no way we can lower it. And that got me thinking, you know, if our property values go up, your taxes go up, even if the mill levy stays the same. I thought it would be cool if we put in some provision that was like, hey, if the total revenues increase beyond what we originally had proposed with the mill levy, require the board to lower the mill levy. Like, that would be kind of cool. It's like, hey, we voted for a certain mill amount and to generate a certain amount of revenue. So just because our property values went up, that doesn't mean that I wanted to pay more taxes. So that could be a cool thing to help us stabilize funding and stabilize taxes for the community.
I may also add that
Sorry.
ballot issue A is against our bylaws. It was a violation of our bylaws when it was passed.
I would like to motion to end discussion on ballot A. No motion has been presented for the board to consider. Motion to end current topic.
There was one hand raised in from the community. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just going to add on to your comments that our community continues to grow. We have new homes and new people are coming. So there is going to be larger and larger tax base. Yes, that's more responsibility for the firefighters, but it's not a tit for tat change. So certainly there should be something about being able to lower. I agree with that comment.
I do want to make a motion. I motion we put the wording on that I just read. We still have one more day to do it. We can put it on the May election.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we
I
have,
can read it again if you want me to.
I don't need it to be rewritten.
no.
Okay,
A motion and a second, all in favor of Steve's, motion to add the ballot language,
I,
all opposed.
Nay.
Under new business, Mr. Creech has a proposal for addressing agendas and minutes.
I've submitted this motion to the board. The information is in a very small handout that each of you can individually review. This information is following Robert's Rules of Order for minutes. And the basic concept is we will no longer record what is said in meetings, we'll record what is done in meetings, and we will post to our website a full transcript, a full video recording for you to review as you deem necessary. Number one, no board member will have to spend 13 hours producing minutes that we're just not going to approve anyway, because minutes can now be produced. And by our bylaws, by the way, they're supposed to be posted to our website within 3 days. They could be produced by the time a meeting is done. So just a small little transcript that has been handed to most of you. It has been presented to our board. So I motion that our board adopt these guidelines as an addendum to our bylaws that already restate we follow Robert's Rules of Orders for these specific matters.
We want to wait till Steve gets back.
I do not want to wait for a member of the board that has left.
Okay,
You didn't ask for a point of privilege, so.
okay, I'll second your motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, is there any discussion?
Oh, any discussion?
You want to discuss this? We have this, right?
Yeah, what's the difference between your recorder and this recorder? They're both in the same meeting.
Is that your only question?
Yeah.
That recording cannot be made available to the public for their own personal scrutinization. Zoom will be made available to the public for their individual scrutinization.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Steve, we're voting on the minutes.
so you're gonna
Recommendation.
vote to approve that?
We have a motion to approve this. In a second. Okay, are you?
Call
ready?
vote.
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Aye, or a nay. Yeah,
Okay. Trying to simplify it for you, Steve.
I won't be doing the minutes, but I'm not giving them to Chris Creech. I wouldn't make all these lies up and not tell it
All
all.
right.
Point of order.
That's enough. Right
You
now.
just voted all these people out of the minutes. They make fun of that.
All right, the next
If I could
item,
please clarify that statement. Minutes are required to be produced and posted to our website by statute. Minutes will be produced and posted following Robert's Rules of Orders. Subsequently, my name is not Roberts. Subsequently, we will post a link to the recording so that every word that is said in a meeting by me, by every other board member, and by any community member that reaches the microphone will be available for your pleasure. Thank you.
Next item is Mr. Green's item, censorship of NIFI overworry.
Well, I felt that Nippy should be censored for adding false statements into the minutes, but you guys approved the minutes, so my reason for censoring him has been overruled by you three.
Okay. So,
Three people can vote in a lie. and you
Okay.
have.
the next,
Excuse me, I'd like to make comments on that.
yes, well,
Mr. Green has accused one of our board members of lying. He has accused one of our board members of inserting information into a meeting that is just not true. Mr. Green's minutes were selective, they were quipped, and they contained very isolated portions of our minutes.
That's not true.
I am speaking and I have 10 minutes, sir. I have passed out a physical transcript of the minutes that we have discussed, and I have a recording that I will play because it is allowed under my 10 minutes of conversation. If you have a copy of the transcript, you're welcome to read along and listen to what is said. There are several key areas of highlights. A couple of the key areas of highlights are where Mr. Green suggests a chief selection committee can be formed. Further, Dave would, conversation ensues about individual board members joining the committee. It wraps up very much at the end of this little 4-minute clip with Mr. Kennard saying, yeah, points should be clear. We now have a nominating committee. Furthermore, that was September 1st. Go read your chief's report for October, for November, and for December, and you will see constant references to the hiring committee's actions. In January, suddenly, we never had a hiring committee. Now, I am going to play for you a copy of the transcript that is in your hands. This recording will take approximately 4 minutes. You can follow along with the voice recording and determine for yourself if anything is inaccurate.
well, about the business very quickly of sending out word that we're looking for a permanent chief and see what we get. I assume that the procedure is that any applicants come before the board for approval. Or the applications come before the board.
Sometimes you have a committee.
Okay.
That is a chief selection committee.
Okay.
Can we do this at the next meeting?
Yeah.
I believe it's.
I think it's probably time to, since the what's transacted, it keeps giving a good sense of what the mechanism might be, and it won't take long to set it.
We're covered in the interim, by Chris. Thank you. I realize how strange this is.
So did we decide for purposes, Steve may want to elaborate, that I've been involved with too. And, but a small committee takes the time to individually interview
Before they bring it to the board.
and discuss amongst themselves with the candidates they want to bring forward to the board. And that's one mechanism. I guess that's not really.
And how it's set up was up to us. I would imagine if you firefighter or possibly Chris would want to have some.
Yes,
input.
absolutely.
Maybe option.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be set up, I believe, it's not written in stone, it can be set up any way we desire, but it's probably.
Dave, would you be on the committee to find a new chief? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes. No.
No, okay. Sheila, okay. Chris? Niffy? Steve?
I'd be happy to have input and listen to.
And time-wise, I probably have more time. Is that okay?
That's fine.
These three will be the committee to review.
But I suggest we also put
process in place.
Why are you shaking your head, David? Do you want to be on the committee?
No, I'm just sad. Chris can set up. We're not set up.
Then join us. Give him a break. Give him a break. Okay.
Was about to say something about putting something on the website. Local newspapers. And letting us surround the districts know, but I'm welcome, the disagree with me, but those are suggestions.
Yeah, I think we need to put together an agenda of all these things and then vote on how we're gonna do that, because we're talking about committing money to these things. So that's what it's on the agenda right now. This crowd is cleared out. That needs to be discussed publicly. So I think we put these things on the agenda, discuss them at the next meeting, which takes place in 2 weeks.
I also believe something else is discussed for Chris. Chris, will you accept pay that the chief is entitled to? I'm not aware as to what. Well, I believe you should, and there is a pay for chief, and I don't think you should do this for nothing because it's only 50. You're gonna say no to money? That's all you have to say. But I do think that, I would make a motion that the chief's pay does get applied to the interim chief.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
We may need to fix it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
The only point to be clear, we now have a nominating committee. And if there's additional processes or expenditures that the committee feels is going to be needed, that will be brought back in 2 weeks to our regular meeting, so we can hear that. We've got a majority of the committee that
I still have a few more minutes, and I would just like to point out a few things. You've heard the recording. If you were able to follow along with this transcript that is not clipped or selected or isolated to a few individual comments, Mr. Green has stated that NIFI has asked twice in the meeting to put it off to the next agenda. It's very clear that his first suggestion to put off the topic of a committee into the next meeting was just ignored. They went on to discuss the committee, select individual members. After the committee was selected and announced by President Deb Green, Steve started to interject about action items that committee should be taken. That is my opinion based on the transcript. NIFI immediately objected to having that conversation happen then, suggested that topic, expenditures, newspaper clippings, how the committee would act, was asked to be put off to the next meeting. Again, my opinion. Read it and listen to it yourself. Finally, in conclusion, when the topic of a chief's hiring committee was wrapped up, board member David Kennard stated, we now have a nominating committee, and further on says something to the effect of, you guys join this committee. A committee was discussed, a committee was approved. NIFI's information inserted into our minutes is 100% accurate. And at the end of Mr. Green's motion, I'll motion to censure Mr. Green for accusing a board member of lying when there is factual information to contradict that motion.
Okay, now I get my chance.
I got one to interject here. Be aware that was Dave Kennard on the tape, not Dave Primer.
There was no committee for, period. There was no committee for him. Chris is saying, my opinion that this or that. There was no committee for him. There was no vote taken. There was nobody agreed upon. He kept saying, let's put it off till the next meeting. Chris said, okay, there's gonna be you three then, and then somebody else said something, and it just kept going. It was not clearly formed. And I don't even care about it, except that a lot of problems have happened with the chief selection committee. There's been issues on it, and they keep putting people off of it.
But there was no chief selection committee, according to you.
But according to you, there was, and one kept functioning.
I did not hear a motion to vote people in that are proposed.
They didn't, they have.
There was no Robert's Rule of Order to form that committee and take a vote that those individuals would be on that committee. Based on that.
Thank you. That is correct. There was no motion.
I don't think it was needed.
You want to abide by Robert's rule of orders, you gotta make a motion and vote on it.
You're correct. You're absolutely correct. We didn't have an official motion. There was no vote. But we operated as if there was a committee the entire time. I would look at this the same way as the budget committee that we had that Mr.
Yeah, we
Green
didn't
served
vote
on.
on that.
There was no vote on that committee, but we all acknowledged that there was a budget committee. Mr. Green, Dr. Kennard, and our interim chief put together a budget. It came back to our broader board and we approved that budget.
But there was no contention about it.
Now, while I'm speaking.
Shut your mouth.
Steve, Steve.
So,
Steve.
yeah, so like, yeah, we didn't actually vote for an official. That's 100% correct, but we operated that way. It's referenced, like, we talked about for months, and we have a great chief, so.
Now, let me move.
That's really what I'm trying to get to, and I don't know why we've been wasting all of this time.
Because we didn't get to meet both candidates. Dave and I both wanted to meet
That's
both
why you
candidates,
have-
and we were denied that opportunity.
That's why you have a committee to weed them out.
We were denied the opportunity, and that's when I said, when did this committee come about? And it's still not proven it came about. You say it came about, you're so clear it came about, and what you added, it's not clear at all. All right, anything but clear, and yet you want to make it clear, and that to me
We done?
is the threat of the truth.
I'll motion that we end conversation and vote on Mr. Green's motion.
Second,
Well, there's no reason to vote, you can obviously vote
Yeah,
against
he
it.
kind of withdrew it.
did you withdraw your motion?
No, I'm not going to withdraw it. You can.
Well, then we
you
have
can
to
show.
vote. Or you take it.
Motion's been seconded. Can you call for the vote?
And rephrase the motion when you lost it in the conversation.
It was Mr. Green's item on the agenda for the censorship of NIFI overall.
For putting something in his version of the minutes, which were approved by these three, that is not, I say not true. I'll change it to saying it's not clear and it shouldn't be in the minutes.
There's a motion.
That's why I
To-
say.
To accept, to accept censorship, which we don't even have the right to do, by the way.
Censored minutes.
Motion for censorship of NIFI. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All in favor? Of censorship of NIFI? All in favor?
I abstain. I don't really care.
Okay.
I just want to prove the
All
point what's
opposed,
going
all
on.
opposed? Nay. The next item is censorship of Deb Curley. And
Dad censored me for reading a letter in front of the Board of County Commissioners.
no, I beg your,
Okay,
point of
I
order,
went-
point of order. I did not censor you. I censured you.
Okay.
The item on the agenda, by your words, is censorship of me.
Okay.
We don't have the authority to do that. We have the authority to censure someone on the board.
So I pronounced it wrong.
No, it's completely different words, Steve.
Censor.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, censor.
So do you want to bring that?
So, in the last meeting,
You want to bring that item back because we can't vote on this. It's my opinion.
I'll just talk about it.
Go ahead.
Great use of everybody's time tonight, huh?
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
but I was told that when I went before the county commissioners on October 4th, after this letter was sent by this board, which was approved, the letter asked for a 6-month delay on approving any fire codes so that our community could review them and our board could review them. I went before the commissioners. Deb was going to go with me. She canceled that morning, might have been the night before, but I think it was that morning. She said, I can't make it. I went down there. I sat there. They called on me. I was the only person in the room besides the officials from the county and some fire people. They said, Mr. Green, are you here personally or are you here to represent the district? I can clearly, you can all look at the tape. I said, I'm here to represent the district because I got 10 minutes that way versus 3 minutes. They said I didn't have the right to say I represented the district. I stood up. I asked the commissioners for exactly what this letter says. Now, I don't believe I need to be censored for that. I didn't ask for more or less. I asked for a 6-month delay. Now, Deb, contrary, She wrote our attorney on January 10th, I believe it was, and told the attorney that we were likely not to put ballot issue A on the ballot.
Wait a minute, but are you going to a different thing now?
Yeah, no, it's all part of the same thing.
Okay,
It's a comparison of
okay,
sure, or short.
you tell me.
Yeah, well, so anyway, Dad told the attorney we're likely going to table this issue on January 10th before the board ever met. The attorneys wrote back, we're so happy you're tabling it. Went on and on and on that it's going to be tabled and not going to be voted on. Deb never corrected that. Deb spoke for the board.
Oh,
Deb shouldn't have. Shame on you, Deb.
oh,
Shame on you for speaking for the board. Do I really care that much? No, but you're censuring me for doing far less than you did.
no, I
Just want to make that point.
remember it's censure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, may I speak? May I speak? May I respond?
You can.
Okay. The reason that I made that statement to our paralegal was we were trying to reduce a $30,000 bill to run the election from the DEO that we had used for many years. That was twice the price that we paid for our last election. I had a verbal conversation on the phone with the DEO's assistant. And instead of getting back to me like he said he would, we got this email from the legal people. I was trying to get that price down. So that's why I said likely going to table it. And that was the
I
reason,
understand.
okay?
I'm not.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
You know,
$15,000 to print the ballots. They didn't want to, they didn't want us.
we're having a conversation, you and I, right? So I just want to make a couple notes about this. When you revealed, because at this time we didn't have a DEO, and you told the attorney we were thinking of using it to DEO, that we were going to pay 30, we might have to pay 30,000. That's a terrible negotiating point. I just want to make that point. You told them.
Excuse me? I didn't tell them. They told us, okay. Are
Anyway.
you finished? Are you finished?
No, okay. I just want to address that you did let them know that you were likely not going to put on there.
For
You
that
didn't have the
reason.
right to do that.
Likely doesn't mean we were gonna do it.
But then you didn't correct them. They went on to say, we're so happy you're not going to do it. Then the attorney wrote. too.
And
You
then
got
they
two
said
separate
it's
emails.
still $30,000, so why would I
have-
respond?
Excuse me, I'd like to make a couple of points of comment. During this time frame, that President Curley made a clarification point to our attorney. Our district, our board was analyzing a lot of very, very, very complicated stuff with the timeline. If you'll recall, we're talking about January 11th. We had a requirement to have a DEO certify our election process within just a few weeks of that. During that same time frame, on January 10th, Board Member Steve Green sent to DOLA this hypothetical question. What if the district does not have an election in May when it is supposed to? Okay, further, no, but what, after being answered, we have to have an election. Steve Green communicated to DOLA on January the 10th later. But what is the penalty, fine, or other punitive action if we don't have an election? President Curley, I will defend her, was trying to negotiate a contract with our attorney in a very, very tight situation where we had to make decisions quickly. Her statement was likely and it wasn't definitive. And I do not believe that she was out of line in, as the president of this board, communicating that information. So.
Mr. Primer, do you have anything to say about this topic?
No.
I don't either. Ms.
I'm done.
Curley
I'm
and
done.
Mr. Green have both spoken twice. Do you have a second thing to say, Mr. Creech?
No, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor or is this just a conversation, Mr. Green?
Just comparing notes.
Do you want to make a
What
motion?
Deb said,
Do you
what
want
I
to make,
said.
do you want to make a motion?
All right, thanks for wasting our time. Next item.
Actually, if we could just clarify, he made a motion of censorship. Are you withdrawing the motion of censorship?
No.
So then you have a motion
Not
for it.
doing it.
Is there a second? Is there a second for that motion? There is no second for that motion. The motion dies. Next item.
Okay. Right now, we have public comment. Anybody's
Deb, I
not
had
too
it.
exhausted to say
Deb, I did
anything.
insert 2 items and I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I think they should go
That
before.
I'm sorry, I am. 6.4 is legal counsel, Mr. Creech.
Yes, I motion that this board seek legal counsel to observe the conduct of certain board members that leaked to the public confidential information that was submitted to the board that was part of our executive session. I believe that should be reviewed by legal counsel to determine any statutory issues. Motion to seek legal counsel to analyze the actions of board member Steve Green for releasing confidential board communications to the public.
Why do you want to keep it secret?
It's procedure.
There was
We have
no executive session, Chris, so you made that up too.
we have rules and procedures that we have to follow. One of those is executive session. Our new chief presented to this board in confidence his proposal. He learned that it was released publicly and therefore decided to communicate about it publicly. However, that releasing of confidential information jeopardizes our district, puts this district at risk when we do not follow statutes. My motion has been read.
Second.
Oh, any
So you're,
discussion?
okay, now you're censuring me again for letting people know that you plan to pay $78,000. Right? Hey, guys.
No one has planned anything. We haven't discussed a salary. That is a proposal.
Fired the chief already.
Released confidential information.
I don't think it was confidential, then was it labeled confidential? There was no executive session.
A prudent person would.
Chris, you
Okay.
put your motion out, it's seconded. Mr. Green has had one opportunity to speak. Mr. Primer, would you like to speak on this issue?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Call the
Wait a minute,
motion.
I do have
Yes,
one.
sir.
It's already in the budget, whatever we pay public servants is a public record. So it's in the budget, so anybody can figure that out and look at it.
It was his,
Anything wages is not
proposal. It was his proposal that was confidential, Dave. Any kind of negotiations with monetary value. That's why we have executive
Was it
session.
labeled confidential? Not that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, show me where. Show me.
Executive session is
It
confidential.
wasn't Executive session.
Okay, anyway, I
It
think
was
you've
neither.
spoken twice. Ms. Curley, you've spoken twice.
What
you wanna
executive
go ahead and
session?
vote on?
What date?
Uh,
It was done.
Madam President, can we have, go ahead and have the vote, please?
All in favor
Aye.
of Chris Creech's motion for seeking legal counsel on leaked confidential materials to the public?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
May.
We still need to spend money on that.
Yeah,
It really sounding kind of, you really will hear all this shit. You
I'm sorry.
really want to spend money on that?
Wasting money.
We already wasted 8,000 to 12,000 on the election.
Yeah.
All right, next item.
Say it again, Steve. Why don't you say it again? Come on, say it again. We want to hear it again.
That you wasted a lot of money on this election.
Okay.
Validation.
Chris, Mr. Creech is bringing a motion to read an apology for an email that was sent from a board member.
An email has been distributed. It's in some of your seats. A member of our board using his board granted email address, sent an email to one of our community members who happens to be a commander in a neighboring fire district. He happens to be the training officer of the neighboring fire district that trains our firefighters. It is a completely, it's an inappropriate email for anyone to send from a board position. And I believe that our board needs to offer a public apology and we need to disavow of that behavior. That behavior threatens the reputation of our district. It threatens the livelihood of our district in the event of any lawsuits that could come from a board member submitting that type of communication to the public. My motion is to offer a public apology and to censure board member Steve Green for the email.
Point of clarification, are those two separate motions or are they a single motion?
If they need to be separated, then motion A is to offer a public apology for the email to our community member and to the Timberline Fire District Commander.
I'll second that motion. Discussion? All in favor?
No, I have a discussion.
My discussion would be, there are a lot of apologies that a lot of us could do. I'm looking at the priesters as well. There's been a lot of emails that come out from certain group members. If we were gonna issue apologies to people, we'd be up here all damn day. So that is, I already talked to you, Chris. I'm not gonna vote for issuing a public apology. So that's where I sit.
Okay, I have a discussion. Do I get this discussion?
Go ahead.
Okay. John Arendt, as well as Sheila Carlin, have been saying that I raised the bill levy. There are people in this room who know that's not true. John went and did it again, and then he says, I'm not a liar. What did he write here? I don't have it in front of me, but he writes, I'm not a liar. I'm telling you the truth. Steve Green was on the board that raised the mill levy. He says this time. That's this bullshit. So it happens over and over and over again. So with the help of some other district members, I put together a stronger email this time. I'm not embarrassed about that email. That man ran he ran for the board and lost. He wanted the merger. So he was sour grapes. And he's ignorant because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
That is not the opinion of this board. That is an individual opinion.
Ignorant means, according to Webster's Oxford Dictionary, lacking knowledge or awareness in general, uneducated, unsophisticated. He was told constantly that he was ignorant and stupid. Anyway, that's what Oxford says. He is that. He keeps doing it, so I told him.
Why does he train our firefighters if he's ignorant?
It's a good question. I didn't say he's ignorant on firefighters. I said he's ignorant on the fact that I raised the mill levy. You think I raised the mill levy, Mr. Priestry?
Point of order, that's off topic.
Mike, could you shed any light on that?
Point of order.
I know you didn't personally.
I was doing.
Yeah, could you call order, please? This is
I'm
off.
sorry.
Right before that time, until Patsy.
Call order, please.
Are you finished?
I'm done.
Did you wish to make a comment?
Oh, he just asked me to support the fact that he didn't raise the mill levy, and I happen to remember what took place at that time. Because right after the election, Patsy Daniels took over the accounting. I was doing the QuickBooks at that time, maintaining them. Set up the pensions things for the guys and stuff. And what had happened was the accountant at that time was a guy by the name of Phil Tromberg, who worked the math backwards to come up with the mill levy. And he worked it backwards and came up with 9.1 the year that I was looking at the books. And I corrected him that it was a 9.067, I think. And it was right around there. So it was off by less than a tenth of a point. So then at that point, there was an election. Sue was no longer the treasurer, and Patsy Daniels wanted the books handed over to her with no handover. So I gave everything to her. And Phil used the same thing, but she didn't catch it. And I don't know how many years it's been. Three.
Yeah, I understand there was some confusion about that. I mean, I've heard,
Steve that did it. It was
Okay.
a mistake on the accountant side, and then the new treasurer that came in.
okay, the
didn't
point,
double check this.
the point is, if that had come to me, I would try to educate that person that of the error of his ways. This is not the facts. I wouldn't send
It was a heated
know.
election, I guess, and Patsy just wanted that material, no handover. I offered to come in and go over things.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification.
I tried to educate John. That's what my email was for, educating him. That's
So I think everyone's spoken. Do we have a vote, please?
Yes.
So the motion was.
I'm sorry, issue a public apology to John Arndt. And do we have a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
You're saying nay?
Yes,
Okay,
abstain.
it does not pass. Okay, now we come to public comment, 6.6, if anybody has anything more to say. No? At this time, I'm going to adjourn. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was.
Yes, that was public comment.
In this meeting, but something you guys really should consider is that John, Brent, and Steve have had this back and forth for years. Okay, and it's gotten personal on both sides. Steve was wrong for using a public email venue to call John Arent
That was an accident.
ignorant. Please don't interrupt. It was wrong for him to do that. However, John Arendt's comment, since it was on its face, wrong and incorrect, was grounded in ignorance. Okay, it really was, because it was an incorrect statement that baited Steve to make that
A board member,
move.
a board member shouldn't talk like that. From a board,
Right.
from the board platform. So we agree on that, Garrett.
But you guys need to take into consideration the actualities.
Right.
of what
We
was
understand.
afoot. That's fair.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think it's really shameful that a person who is representing our community writes a public letter like that. I think no matter what John said that was wrong or not, and no matter what Steve's opinion was, I'm not judging that. But I think the tone and the content of the letter as a public letter was shameful, and that a member of our board should not behave that way. And the letter could have been written in different terminology.
I have one public comment that I need to read. We could move on to another. Sheila, if you could post it again because of the amount of comments, I don't know which one you're referring to. So please post again the comment that you would like for me to read into the record. We can, if anybody else has a public comment while she does that. Correct.
Well, back in, when did you get rid of the chief, September?
September 1st.
Then we had October at Station 1. And right before that meeting, I got a horrendous email from Sheila Garland off the Golden Gate website, email. Ashing me with a bunch of harsh stuff. And then she brought up, again, Steve, the mill levy increase.
Right.
And I had to elaborate on that, so everybody that wasn't familiar with that can get up to speed on it. And I thought everybody understood that Steve had absolutely nothing to do with that mill levy increase.
Right.
But I got a really bad email from Sheila Carlin right before that October at Station 1.
Right.
And she was a city board member at that point.
Is she back on?
She blamed me, huh? For mill levy increase?
Yeah. Yeah, remember? And I said,
Oh,
well,
I know. I just want to make sure that you say it.
yeah.
Sheila Carlin's public comment in regards to, if you review the past legal expenses from other boards, you will see that Steve Green's actions have cost the board more than what was budgeted. I have sent you the document of the mill levy increases. Check your assessor information. Please read my comment during the public period regarding the mill levy increases for 3 years. Taxpayers should check their tax records. The document that was sent to me, I believe that if Sheila were here, she would point out some of the information. And she states or indicates mill levy rates, and I will just state the years of decrease: 1997 to 98 decrease, 1999 to 2000 increase to 5.02. The largest increase that has occurred was in between 2003 and the 2004 year, where we went from 6.168 to 9.111. That was in tax year 2003. 2004. You can verify that with your posted information on board members that voted or submitted that to the district for approval. Are there any more Zoom comments that you would like to have read into public record? Meredith states it is public record that the mill levy was increased during the time that Steve was on the board. It is the responsibility of the board to certify the mill levy. That is another Sheila Carlin. We have a public comment from Cindy P. I would like to request that a Jeffco Sheriff Deputy be present during all of those meetings for the safety of the board members who Steve Green has threatened. And I believe that is all of the Zoom comments to date. If we have missed, I'm sorry. Steve, grow up and act like an adult in a meeting. And those are the Zoom comments to date. I'm sorry, one more has come in. 2013 to 2016. In 2015, it was 12.66665%.
Okay, now I get to respond if I'm being accused and nobody's gonna tell me no. When Steve
I
grew
believe
up.
our rules state you have, no, we have rules that we have presented. You have 1 minute if the president.
You don't tell me what I got.
It
You
is,
don't tell me
it is
what I got.
open for the community. Board members can answer a question. We are allowed 1 minute. We have rules. I'm sorry that we should follow rules.
I'm told to grow up, right?
Point of clarification for folks, we had a meeting where Mr. Creed proposed rules during public comment, and I believe they were adopted unanimous.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it was just because like we were having a little bit of back.
You selectively apply them. I'm told to grow up. What they're really saying is, don't tell what's really happening in the board. You can hear us here all night long. Don't let the public know what's going on, or we're gonna do something to you. That's what they're doing. So I let you guys know, they don't like it.
You done? Okay, oh, yes, Tim.
Mr. Green, my name's Tim Price.
I know you.
I'm a resident here. I would like to ask for your resignation, and failing that, I would ask the board to remove Steve Green from this board. He's a disgrace to the neighborhood. He threatens board members.
That's not true. Prove it. It's not true.
Who's he trying? I'm not aware of it.
I'm not gonna mention names. Everybody knows what kind of a man Steve is.
Yes, what kind of a man?
I'm asking for your resignation. Failing that, I'm asking the board to remove you.
I appreciate his transparency.
If I can make two
We're not
comments.
able to remove.
We cannot remove a board member. We can only do what a lot of you have found discussing in here, and that is to continue to put on public record our censorship and disavowing of behavior that we find jeopardizes our district. And as long as I'm a board member, which, by the way, if you do not know, I am not running for election. I have no intention of continuing in this type of process. I will continue to fully serve this community until our newly elected boards are here. If I find that a board member is acting inappropriately, I will address that. Thank you. If you want to know who was threatened, sir, please send me an email. I will forward the email directly to you for review. It was discussed at our last meeting. Thank you.
Julie?
Am I correct in saying, that although the board cannot oust him, Mr. Green, we as a people can recall him? So if you want to talk about that,
I'll answer that question.
let's do it another time.
To answer your question within my 1 minute, that is correct. The community can sponsor a recall initiative. Individual members of the board can choose to support the recall initiative, and the board can take a point of board vote to support or not support the recall initiative. We cannot initiate a recall initiative.
Thank you.
Mr. Green is a newly elected member of this board, whether I agree with him or not is kind of irrelevant. I don't necessarily like some of the things that he says or how he says them and the things that he does. He does do some things that are really helpful for our community. He's done a lot of research on our elections and different things. And, you know, just as I'm up here, you know, there are people who don't want me sitting up here either. The recall effort, I think it requires something like 40% signatures from 40% of the electorate, which is like 50% more people than voted in the last election. So recalling happened. So yeah, that's just my comment on that. Let's just continue to try to work together as best we can and get through. We are neighbors.
Thank you for the compliment.
We gotta figure out how to work together somehow.
Dave,
I would just like to recognize and say I appreciate the comments of the new chief when he was talking earlier at the meeting. Good to hear about his background, and good to hear about his operating philosophy, his positive attitude. It was good to hear about some of the things, the opportunities that he sees, whether it's fundraising, or whether it's to better fulfill the mission. So the fire department, so welcome and thank you for your comments.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to now adjourn our board meeting. We are going into executive session. You're welcome to stay because we will come back out of an executive session and perhaps make a motion.
Madam Chair, I believe you need to cite the Colorado revised.
I'm sorry.
statute. Madam Chair, I believe you need to cite the Colorado revised statute.
Yes, yes. Executive, yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
According to statute CRS 24-6, for subsection F, to discuss personnel matters, job description, discussion of proposal, fire chief, or hiring.
Thank you. We need a motion. Bill, or have you had your fill? Are you sick of me already? You want to talk tomorrow? Have you changed your mind?
Well, I almost did, but no. Oh, yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I'd love to meet.
There's some redirection. Redirection.
I'm
That's the one.
open,
So how do you?
I know, I need help.
Pardon? What denomination? He is so he's an ecumenical. Or doing Presbyterian. And used to see Presbyterian in. Pretty large. Oh, I
Don't.
Get off this grass. Get out of this. Well, we're asking, but we moved here.
Oh, very
Now
nice.
we're good job.
Genesee?
Yes. Yes, you know Rockland very well. At one point, that actually wasn't. Yes, before it became.
We went up and living up here before we go.
Okay, my apologies. Rockland was UCC. Right here was, Foothills Community Church. Okay. But yes, you see, that was usually teachers.
You get kids?
I do, I got two. I got a little boy, 8 months old, and I've got a 4-year-old.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's the difference between my kids.
They're
now
It's about
30.
perfect.
2 and 29. Yeah, it is. They never went to high school together. But then our daughter took an extra year in college, they were in college students.
And remind me, you have a financial background, right?
I'm a budget guy, but
Okay.
yeah.
For this government? Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for.
Yeah, I'm the executive officer for National Telecommunications Information Administration.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Office holder.
Chris, no, did you talk about it last meeting?
Maybe a little.
I think we did. Okay.
someone asked, you know.
Okay. That's awesome.
So, my next thing. I'm one of the.
A quick point of order for those who are still on Zoom. We will be adjourning our public comments, moving into executive session. We will return from executive session. And at that time, I will restart the meeting. You can stay on the meeting until we restart public comments. However, the board will be moving into executive session. When we return, I will restart the Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Understood. Understood.
I don't know if I do. My 57 years in business, don't wrestle with the thing in the mud, your most security and no one. Yeah, I said I was restraining. It might be funny to watch somebody in a public environment. What an asshole he is, and to not recognize, not
have the competency to understand what an idiot means.
That's why I was ready.
No, let him run. Hopefully, the community